It was the ultimate maximum security prison, widely considered to be the most secure penitentiary on the planet. And 3 men managed to escape. Maybe you've heard of the infamous Escape from Alcatraz story, where 3 inmates did the impossible. They broke out of this unbreakable prison. This real-life event was adapted as a movie starring Clint Eastwood in 1979, and to this day, tourists visit the cells that the men escaped from all those years ago. But here's the thing. These men were never found again after their breakout. They completely vanished. So, today, we are using science to see if this breakout is even possible. What are the obstacles? How long would it take? Basically, we want to know, could you survive the Great Alcatraz Escape? For those unfamiliar with Alcatraz, also known by its nickname The Rock, let's first break down exactly what this place is and why it's so infamous. Alcatraz is a prison located on an island in the San Francisco Bay and was built in 1847. During its early years, it really wasn't any different than any other prison you might come across. But that all changed in 1934, when the US adopted a war on crime mentality, and Alcatraz was reforged into the world's most secure prison. And when we say secure, we mean secure. The icy waters of the Pacific Ocean surround this lonely island, and the prison itself consists of 336 cell blocks, 36 segregation cells, and 6 solitary confinement cells. Oh, and that reforging of Alcatraz we mentioned? We meant it. Tougher iron bars were installed, strategically placed guard towers were built, and over a dozen checks a day by prison guards meant that when it came to top-tier jails, this one was absolutely S-tier. As far as inmates, well, when you have the best prison in the world, you get some of the biggest names in crime behind your bars. Famous baddies include George Machine Gun Kelly, no, not the rapper Brainiacs, come on, you know better. Robert Stroud, aka the Birdman of Alcatraz, who after he was sentenced to life in prison, started scientific studies of canaries that he kept in his cell, and these studies were used by the scientific community. And of course, one of the most famous mob bosses of all time, Al Capone. This place was the real deal, until it closed in 1963. And believe it or not, many escape attempts were made during its tenure. In fact, in 14 separate attempts, a total of 36 men tried to escape to freedom. But one attempt in particular made the headlines and captured the imagination of the public. Even to this day, we, of course, are talking about the Great Alcatraz Escape, which took place in 1962, just 1 year before Alcatraz closed. 3 men, Frank Morris and John and Clarence Englund, did what was thought to be impossible. They broke out of their cells using tools they had fashioned from materials found around the prison and set out across the San Francisco Bay to freedom. At least, that's one version of the tale. The truth is, they were never heard from again. Like, ever. They never contacted family. They were never caught using phony credit cards or caught trying to buy a house. They just vanished. The FBI searched extensively for them, and after learning of their exact path out of the prison areas and onto the island, they said that there was no way they survived the harsh Pacific waters. And the official record says that all 3 men met their end trying to make it to shore. But we are scientists. We want to know the logistics and see if it's even possible that these men could have survived. We want to know, could you survive the Great Alcatraz Escape? For that, we're going to have to plot out the path you would have to take and take a look at all the obstacles you'd have to face, from high walls to fences to all of it. We're finding out if you could survive this infamous escape attempt. First of all, if you were sentenced to Alcatraz in its prime, it would be monstrously hard to get out. Not only would you have to plan everything around the constant surveillance of the guards, you would have to get pretty lucky with regards to what cell you were confined to. If you happen to have a cell that had an air vent, well then step 1 would be complete, as this is exactly what Morris and the Englund brothers realized they had in their cells. And like them, your first step would be to get that vent open. Discreetly. Don't think you can just use your hands either. I mean, when it came to the Great Alcatraz Escape, these men collected parts of vacuum cleaners to fashion a homemade drill. They drilled around the vents so that the entire section of the wall could be removed. and then cleverly hid the damage they had done with something like a suitcase or cloth. You better make sure your art skills are up to par as well, because guards will be walking by your cells, and it would be game over real fast if they noticed you weren't in your bed. Take another note from Morris and the Anglin Bros. They made dummies out of paper and other materials they could get their hands on to fill their beds, and these dummies were good enough to fool the guards. Alright, so making it out of the cell can be done. But what about getting out of the prison? The walls at Alcatraz are about 30 feet high. If you fall from that, you're looking at damage to your internal organs, and you can definitely expect bone fractures. Not just your legs either. Falls from that height can mean rib fractures as well. But are these walls even scalable? Well, from outside of that hole in your cell you made, you better believe they are. Pipes leading up to the roof are going to be your best bet, and the roof contains more air ventilators. So be sure to bring along that makeshift drill. Better remember to bring some way of refastening that roof air vent back in place though. In the case of the Great Alcatraz Escape, they used a fake bolt made out of a bar of soap. These guys may have been criminals, but they sure had some clever means of breaking out. Huh. So, now you're on the roof. What do you do now? Lucky for you, Alcatraz has smokestacks from the bakery that, as long as you can keep your fear of heights in check, they're able to be grabbed onto, and you can shimmy your way down. Everything seems possible so far, Brainiacs. But you ain't out of the clear yet. Next up, if you managed to sneak across the yard, you'd find a 12-foot fence topped with barbed wire, which can be scaled. All you need to do is find a corner of the fence where the barbed wire is least protected. Climb up and swing one leg over at a time. You're in the clear! You've made it out of the prison! Oh wait. There's still one more obstacle, and it's the toughest one of all. The waters around Alcatraz are chilly, as in 12 degrees Celsius chilly. It's this cold because these waters have traveled down from Alaska, which is part of the reason that San Francisco summers are so comfortable. These cold waters may be great for the city, but trying to swim them without a wetsuit? You're in trouble. This isn't a quick dip either. Your journey to freedom is 1.5 miles. That's over 106 lengths of a pool. Good luck with that one. But that's exactly what the 3 escapees in 1962 tried to plan for. But ultimately, they likely met their end here. They had fashioned a raft from over 50 raincoats they had stolen from the penitentiary. But according to the FBI at least, it wasn't enough. So, is this the end of the story? Would you fall victim to the final defense that Alcatraz has to offer? Well, technically, swimming that distance is possible, and people do it all the time. The Alcatraz Touch and Go is a yearly swim challenge where some of the most athletic men and women come to try and swim the very same path that Morris and the Anglin brothers attempted. One man in particular, Pedro Ordenses, has not only completed the swim, he now acts as a coach for those who want to take the plunge, and will even be a guide for monthly swims. Total, Pedro has completed this stretch of the bay 979 times. Looks like you really could escape from Alcatraz. Maybe the 3 men really did make it out scot-free. Well, don't forget, people train hard for this swim, as in months hard. And they carb load, and have wetsuits, and guides. It's no small feat. Add to this the currents of the water and the extreme tides, it's very unlikely that someone right out of prison would be able to make it out. Impossible? Well, alright, we'll give you that one. We guess it is possible, but there's a reason the FBI closed the case all those years ago. But the Great Alcatraz Escape's legend lives on. And even to this day, little hints that maybe the men did survive pop up. In 2018, for instance, a letter claiming to be from John Anglin was sent to San Francisco authorities, which said that John was in bad shape. He wrote that he was now 83 years old, had cancer, and that he would be willing to tell authorities where he is, if they promised to send help. After fingerprint and handwriting tests were done, the San Francisco police deemed the letter to be a fake. But that doesn't stop these men's incredible escape attempt from living on in the imagination of the public. I mean, there's a movie made about these guys, with Clint Eastwood in the lead. That's no small potatoes, Brainiacs. Looks like the human spirit is nearly impossible to break. And even though their survival is highly unlikely, it technically is possible that these 3 men did indeed break out of the most secure prison in the world and swim that stretch through the San Francisco Bay to freedom. Did they actually make it though? Well, who knows for sure. But if you're wondering if you have what it takes to survive a prison breakout, we'd say practice climbing walls, fences, sneaking through yards unseen, and finally, sign up for that Alcatraz touch and go. Better start training though.